everybody. Going to go ahead and call this evening's commission meeting to order. So the first item this evening is going to be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the next item is going to be public comment. I understand there is nobody on the list, so with that, we'll move right into the consent agenda.
Come up here. If we get a motion, I'll ask it afterwards. That's not coming up.
You want to look at mine?
No, it's something I typed in OneNote. It's okay.
I didn't get any comment. I don't think I got any emails. Did
I forgot to send it to you.
Oh, okay.
He's trying to pull it up right
Okay,
now.
no problem. I didn't.
OneNote and this antiquated piece of equipment here. It's okay. I'll ask you afterwards.
Okay.
Mine died last month, so I gave it to Jim.
Mine died, and it keeps on dying, so I had to delete everything on it to try
So,
and make it stay.
in the budget this year, there will be new equipment.
Mine's good.
For the time being. Okay.
You got it?
Yep.
Go ahead, Jim.
Actually, I'll take this one offline. It was... Yeah, I'll take this one offline. It was about travel. Okay, I'll bring it up. On page 34 and 37, there were two payments, but I think I found the answer later on when the checks were written. It was for Ms. Beatty travel, and I didn't know if they had charged you twice, because on page 34, they showed
No,
travel.
it's charged as multiple budgets.
Okay, that's what it was, because once I saw the check and it put the two together, I said, I bet you this is the answer, but I just wanted to be sure.
It was a conference for ENCODE, Tyler, and since it's heavily used by water, wastewater, and the general fund, we split that in, I think, 4 ways.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was all I had, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item this evening is going to be a special presentation, and that is going to be a proclamation celebrating Juneteenth in Junction City, Kansas on June the 10th, 2017 by Mayor Fitzgerald. Are you taking it?
No, we have Ms. Chantel here.
Okay. Juneteenth, whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1863, formally abolishing slavery in the United States of America, and whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some two and one half years to June the 19th of 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States, and whereas Emancipation Day observation are held different days in different states in the South and Southwest and in other parts of the nation. And whereas June the 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 125 years. Now, therefore, I urge all citizens to become more aware of the significance of this celebration in African American history in the heritage of our nation and city. Juneteenth will be celebrated on June the 10th, 2017 in Junction City, Gary County, Kansas. In witness thereof, I, Phyllis Fitzgerald, Mayor of the City of Junction City, have hereto set my hand and cause the Great Seal of the City of Junction City to be affixed the 6th day of June, 2017. Go, ma'am.
Like this way.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
See, you got anything to say?
I do want to thank Ms. Chantel for being here, and she has been an excellent worker, bringing Juneteenth celebration to a greater, higher quality than has ever been before. We have a great committee of Juneteenth. I'm also on the committee. I'm a community activist, but this year's Juneteenth, it may appear short from 11 to 5, but we figured do less better, and this year it's really, really going to be much better. There'll be stuff for young folks, because we had some young people that came in and says, what do the kids do? So this year, my neighbors even jumped on boards. We have stuff for little guys, middle-sized guys and gals, and my age, which means that we'll have we'll have food, vendors, all kinds of wonderful stuff. And if you want to know history, Abraham Lincoln will be present. He'll be there the entire day. Thank you very much for the proclamation, Madam Mayor, and we hope you have time to stop in.
I will. And
Thank
it's
you
at
so much.
Heritage Park.
Heritage Park, all day long.
Thank you. Next item is going to be some appointments, and the first one is going to be the appointment of Charles Martinez to a 2-year term on the Food Council Policy Board.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, these are just 2 appointments, 2 reappointments. I think the Food Policy Council stands for itself, and let's keep rock and rolling forwards.
I move to appoint Charles Martinez to a 2-year term on the Junction City Food Council Board.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. The next item this evening is going to be the appointment of Shannon Roserer to a 2-year term on the Food Council Policy Board.
I would move to approve the appointment of Shannon Rozier to the 2-year term on the Food Council Policy.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
None.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda this evening is the reappointment of Joe Hanlos to a 2-year term on the Food Council Policy Board.
I move to reappoint Joe Hanlos to a 2-year term on the Junction City Food Council Policy Board.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
None here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. And the next item on the agenda this evening is going to be the reappointment of Krista Blaisdell to a 2-year term on the Food Council Policy Board.
I would move to approve the reappointment of Krista Blaisdell to a 2-year term on the Food Policy Board.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Nothing here.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for stepping up to be on the Food Council Board. We appreciate that. Next item this evening is under new business, and the first item up this evening is going to be the consideration of the Federal Aviation Administration FAA deed of release to allow the sale of the city airport property to JJ Marina.
Madam Mayor and Commissioners, this one, of course, goes back a long ways, but finally in March, we received word from FAA after they had numerous discussions about the sale of the land and reappraisals and everything else, and they finally went ahead with the appraised value that when it was appraised at $4,025. Then contacted the owner of the property and back and forth until we get to this point here. Do you want to explain what this is actually?
Yeah, so,
Okay.
because it's property, if I'm correct, Cheryl, it's
It was purchased with grant money from
From
the
the-
Federal Aviation,
administration.
Aviation Administration.
So they have bells and whistles on the city's ability to dispose of property that's acquired using federal grant money. There was a packet of requirements that the city had to go through in order to obtain permission from the FAA to essentially get released and sell the property. I think Cheryl and city staff and perhaps the airport consultant put
Right.
that entire packet together, submitted it to the FAA. This is the response from the FAA. So it's a conditional response. It requires the payment of the purchase price of the appraised value, as well as certain restrictions in the deed conveying the property, which generally relate to doing nothing with the property that would interfere with the use of the airport property adjacent to it. So essentially, when I prepared the special warranty deed, I just literally cut and paste the requirements, rewording them slightly, so that this purchase will be subject to all those requirements, because we can only sell it subject to all those requirements.
Right.
And that'll be the next item on the agenda.
So the first item is a deed of release, which is something that the FAA prepares to acknowledge that it has consented to a conveyance subject to these requirements. That's the first item, which would be a recorded
And this will be recorded.
agreement. And then the next item on the agenda will be the deed from the city to the buyer of the property.
And then the fence project can be completed?
Mhm.
But you might recall that originally the kind of compromise we came to was to just give them a quick claim deed to the property.
Right.
But
You can do it that way.
this goes beyond that, because we
FAA.
originally we didn't know about the FAA
When we researched,
requirement.
we discovered that FAA did purchase the land, and therefore it will only be sold by permission from FFA with their conditions.
Okay. That's different.
Because before I thought they had comments regarding it had to be a business that had something to do with aircraft or something like that. So
Right.
apparently that's all been
Well,
worked out.
Right.
We had to, like she said, we had to fill out forms and requests and did a special request on it.
We had an argument one day, we had a conference call, Cheryl and I, with staff, FAA staff, and they were saying the appraisal was too low for an acre of land. Of course, then we explained that you can't get to this acre without going through the other property because of access on 57, and just,
Complicated.
it was fun.
They both
We're not
have
going to
propellers.
see flying boats.
They do both have
Only at
propellers.
certain times.
It'd be like flying feet.
Okay. We need a motion to proceed, or
A motion to,
Approve the deed of...
Approve the deed of
Yeah.
release first.
so moved?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item on the agenda this evening is going to be consider the sale of a parcel of city airport property to JJ Marina in the amount of $4,025.
And, Madam Mayor and Commissioners, after having a discussion, getting through this with City Attorney on Friday, I'd like to add the words to the motion's written there, is add the words that Katie suggests that we record it after he pays us, and that we make sure that both the deed and the release that we just had before get recorded, that we know they're recorded, that we recovered. And so it's $4,025 plus reimbursement for those two costs recording those two documents.
Is the,
We're just covered that way.
is the buyer aware of that?
He'll be told that tomorrow when I call him.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking, what, $8, $10, $12, it's not a lot of dollars. It's the same thing he'd pay for it when he recorded it.
Okay.
But we need to make
We
sure
just want to make sure
that
that
release gets recovered.
they're both
yeah.
recorded rather than handed over and have,
And never get recorded.
never
Okay.
get recorded or never get the deed of release recorded, which
Do
is
we,
Well, and
really
we have to
important.
show proof to FAA we have to mail back to FAA all these documents. So I have to have that as well. And then on top of that, I have to also prove that that $4,025 is spent on the airport. So I have to track that money separately.
do we need to give him a time frame on when he needs to get them recorded by?
No, we're going to record it.
Okay, we're good, all
He
right.
brings us a check, we record it.
So it was said earlier that the FAA bought the land originally?
No.
So is,
No, they,
We bought it with FAA.
Through grant
funds.
money,
bought it with their funds?
with grant money.
So this 4,000 is our money
It's our money, but we'll have to
for
prove
airport use?
for
for airport use.
Right.
So I'll have to
Yeah.
prove
Just
that.
clarifying it.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure.
I told her that wouldn't be a problem since, I mean, in a year's time, that money will be used up, but I still have to track it and prove
Sure.
it.
It ain't easy to sell airport ground.
The money that we allocated for the fence to go around the whole thing, is that a separate fund, or is this,
That was grant funds.
That's grant funds.
okay, so
It was a
does this fit-
90-10.
With a match.
Right?
Yes, it was a 90-10.
90-10.
10% we paid for.
Okay. So does this 4,000 go towards the fencing grant?
No,
No.
but
It could.
All one pot.
we're in a grant right now for
Master
the
plan.
master plan, so the $4,000 is part, could be used for that. I just
Okay.
have to,
Will be spent.
it will be spent for airport use. I just have to show that it was. It'll cover 1 or 2 invoices
Is the fence project going to be completed?
this summer, yes.
Okay.
I have a question on the amount. On the memo, it says 4,025, and in the contract, it says 4,075.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
typo. We'll fix
Is it just a
Well-
typo, or?
It's in there twice.
25,
It's 4,025 in the letter.
yeah.
Yeah.
I never saw
And the
it.
FAA letter says 425.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
well,
it-
that's a typo.
It's
We'll
the
fix
FAA,
it.
the FAA letter says 4,025.
2 and a 7 looks similar.
Yeah, it's definitely right here.
Whichever page it's on.
On page, here it's forward.
Yeah, page 94, in the last paragraph.
It is a typo,
Okay.
yeah.
Can it be pen and ink changed, or you got to retype it?
No,
Well-
I'll change it.
She'll change it before we
It's- I can
finalize.
change it.
Yeah, before we sign it.
Yeah.
I'd move to
4,025. It was 4,025. We are not-
I'd move to approve the sale of the property to J.J. Marine as presented
and amended.
and amended.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Did we need to add the comment plus reimbursement
That was as amended.
Yeah.
as amended? Okay. No further questions?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Next item this evening is going to be discuss additional needs for the sanitary sewer system on Spring Valley Road.
Madam Mayor, Commissioner, as you know, last year we dealt with the sewer, part of the sewer problems on South Spring Valley Road. This is the area that was annexed into the city in late December of 2006. As you realize, all the documents we had at that time, said the city, and even all of the property owners down there, said the city said they'll run a sewer line for us and everything else. Never did, of course, and we had the problem last year on the east side, and we did that project on the east side. Now we have a property on the west side, maybe 2 of them, with problems. One of them is the parent, one of the owners just died, so her daughter's been calling me. And, the same thing, and we checked, it's in the same areas in the city, the whole bit. I contacted Call Valley, and Leon did an estimate of what it's going to cost to bring it on the west side there. Again, this is kind of what falls last year. It costs I really don't, would like to have, but on the other hand, I do believe that the city made a promise on that one there. So, through, the meeting and the commission and everything else, it was all part of the minutes that you've all seen before. So, the key issue is, do you want to move forward with it? The next step, of course, would be to have Call Valley go ahead and put out specs and then bid it out. Would be the next step if the commission so desires to move that direction.
Now, my understanding is that the septic system has failed.
At 14 and maybe south there as well.
Right. And, this goes back a year ago where we discussed what are we going to do in the future, and we all knew that this was going to come up again. There's properties all along that road. And last year, I wanted to see a plan as to how we were going to get to those.
Oh, Leon, they did have a plan in that one packet. The only one that would be left would be the house down south, right?
Well, we have one on the corner of Ash and Spring Valley that just put in a new septic system within 3 months ago because we couldn't get a sewer to them.
Ash and Spring Valley.
Liberty Hall.
I don't know if I want to say the name. Can I say the name?
Begonias.
Yes,
House.
yes.
And
Yes.
that was studied 5 or 6 years ago, done by the city. I had one of the residents out there to run it up from where the Smalls, or Bishes live at McFarland Road in Spring Valley. It could be sewered from that direction. It never went any further.
So why did we put in a septic system without doing the same thing that we're doing today,
I didn't even know about that one.
well, it's in. I mean,
Where? At Ashen?
right at the corner, the northeast corner of Ash and Spring Valley.
Big lot, and then there's a house next to it, right by the water tower.
They have a pool in the
Apparently, they
backyard.
didn't ask the
Yeah,
city.
they didn't
Couldn't
bring it
notify the
forward.
city.
Just do the,
Yeah,
So they didn't notify the city?
Right.
Apparently not.
that side doesn't have sewer on that side of the road?
Surprised the sanitarian
I
didn't say
think they were
something.
annexed because they
Do what?
wanted
Surprised
water.
the sanitarian didn't say something.
Well, yeah, the sanitarian
Nobody said a
approved
word.
it.
We had no idea that one. This is the first I've
Oh,
heard
And
of
then,
that.
and then there's a house north of that that doesn't have sewer system.
All the way to,
But were they included in the resolution is the question.
no, I think they were
No,
automatically.
they're not.
Well, then we wouldn't provide
Yeah.
them to them.
That's north of
These were all
Ash.
part,
No, I understand that,
areas
but,
we have here were part of that resolution back in 6.
right, right. And I understand that. Those were all listed on that resolution. But we have other properties that we're not addressing. And we're letting people put septic systems in the city.
Because 2 years prior to that, the city commission allowed people to do that by law.
We allowed that on Spring, or on McFarland Road.
Yeah. They put it in ordinances and said it's okay.
Because otherwise,
then
we're
why-
going to force everybody to join, even though it's just one person to reply to.
Even though Mr. Vernon recommended against it, the city commission said it was okay.
Yet, we turned around and said it was not okay to put a septic system in, and it cost the city $198,000 to put in 6 sewer lines. So what are we doing? We're jumping around here, we're not doing something consistent. We're going to allow some and not allow others.
I think-
difference in this one here is these are the areas, as we showed last year, and we discussed this,
Right.
that the city had made a promise, and it was part of all the documentation we had, that the city would put sewer in when they annexed.
Right.
Now, how the other ones got annexed, they were not part of this. I don't know. I don't know that one.
Or they could be de-annexed from the city if the city did not provide the system. That was part of the agreement. So if we would not have done anything, they could have de-annexed from the city.
And the argument they made, and even the one I talked to is they paid 12 years of city property tax and have not had it.
Right.
You know, same argument we had last year. I mean,
Right,
you
right,
know,
right.
$200,000.
And don't
That
want
would be that, yeah.
to continue that argument. I just want to make sure that we're doing things
The other,
consistently.
the other option the city commission does have is no private septic systems in the city. We can do that.
And we
We
agreed
had a long debate
by
over that.
ordinance
That-
2 years ago that we could.
That was as painful as talking about animal ordinances.
No, that was back in,
That was back when Dave Alexander didn't
oh,
want to
that's,
put it.
yeah, before.
That was
Private
McFarland,
line.
right?
Your home-use building. We took all that heat for that.
Right,
Yes.
right.
Yeah, that's about 3 or 4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it was-
everybody was going to be forced to come on that. The cost for the folks across the road on McFarland to tie up to that city line would have been huge. And their systems were working fine.
Mr. Osborne, are you in position that you can talk a little bit about this plan right here? Is it, how big of an area are we, just so I'll get a visual,
And does this catch all the rest of the
Right.
properties?
Yeah,
except
I'm
for-
not familiar with the promises were with the legal description or boundary of the annexed property. But I thought these properties were still in the county. I was told I was wrong, so I was wrong. But we'll take everything from Valley Drive to the north to Spring Valley / Liberty Hall Road, Mr. Rothfuss's house. Well, it's Liberty Hall this
Oh,
side.
on that side.
Excuse me, Ash, I apologize, yes.
Right.
There is one house, Mr. Walsh's house is not in the county, it's not in the city, so it's in the county, but sewer will be at his back door. It depends where we end up placing it on whose lot, if we get an easement from him or whatever. And you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 houses that'll be in that district, including Mr. Rothfuss, who's already in the city limits, but on a septic tank. The reason we couldn't extend the line along Spring Valley Road, if you look at them houses, they're all about 6, 8 feet below Spring Valley Road. And that sewer's already deep there at the corner where Schroeder's live now, and we serve that old AT&T building. Or we've got a service line over to that AT&T building.
Now, those properties that go west on Liberty Hall from
Spring Valley?
Walsh west Those are in the city.
No, they're in the county. The only thing I understand that's in the city is
They
the
were
right-of-way.
annexed.
So
They
there's a
were
piece-
annexed.
There's a piece behind Richard's house that's outside.
Before you get to the new homes.
Then
Burris's.
you get back into the new one.
Yeah, once you get over to where the tower is, where Spring, can't think of the name of the subdivision now.
Right.
Right,
Oh,
that
Chris?
is, yeah.
That's in, and that's.
That's
But
it.
there's a string in there that's still in the county along Liberty Hall on the south side.
On the north side.
From Walsh West, or you're saying all those are in?
All those are in. They're all on the document that was annexed into the city. Walsh, well, there's 4 or 5 properties along there, and on the north side, they're not.
They're not.
Yeah.
And Burris's have such large tracts there, that
Right.
I think that's why they're still in the county, but.
I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure Burris is in, Burris is also annexed.
I'd have to.
I don't-
didn't-
I
didn't
don't know if
compare
I have
that.
the-
I can't answer
With
that.
me.
I didn't look at the ordinance.
Okay. And that is exactly my point. We need to know what the right hand's doing while the left hand's doing something else. We need to know. And so if those are in the city needs to have a plan. If they're not in the city, if they're in a county like you say they are, no harm, no foul. But if they are in the city, we need to make sure that we're planning, because just as those 2 have come to you, there are others going to come to you and say, hey, we were annexed too, what are you going to do for us?
Well, we gotta make sure it's part of that annexation that was
Sure.
done by that method in '06.
Sure.
With that
Voluntary
resolution agreement.
annexations would be a whole lot different. And was that property north of Ash Street and east of Spring Valley? I don't know if that was a consent annexation or forced. I don't know. I mean,
Troy was in the office today, so I did go ahead and ask him to go ahead and take those 2 resolutions, build me a map that shows who's in and who's supposed to
and we
be.
had part of that in a packet last time that Blanchard had drawn up for us
I thought
too.
we did too, that's why.
It was
I
in one of your packets.
Okay,
Up with.
good.
The question is, do you want Leon to move forward with specs for those 6 properties, like we did the east side?
Are you planning on building specs for Liberty Hall south to Valley? Because there's a couple other properties in there as well.
We'd have to make sure they were part of this annexation.
This sewer line would serve all
They
of
were.
Burris's property,
Okay.
all of Burris's property to the west to where that radio tower is.
Okay,
Where old man Upham used to live,
okay.
and anything going, it's already platted into city limits.
So the one on the corner, Rothus.
Yep.
I hate saying
Yes.
the names, but the next one south, and then Wadsworth, and then Green Street, then,
O'Neill, yeah, all of those
O'Neill.
could hook into this line.
okay, because those were annexed.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, great.
And then this line then would allow us the latitude to extend it on further to the west.
Okay.
And serve some of them properties, but there's large tracts of ground there that
Yeah.
someday it's going to develop, but.
So this work here is still not going to take care of all of the,
This takes care of Spring Valley Road.
This would take care of those that were annexed
By that
in that
resolution.
2006 annexation.
Well, he's saying no. He's
Not
saying
all
that's
of
not
them.
all of them.
so that's
The rest
why
of
I-
them,
That's,
Not all of
that's
them.
why I wanted to visit with Troy some about making sure all the people in that resolution is
you know, there were
addressed.
some further north that were included at other times, but they have sewer now.
So at the next meeting, maybe you can,
Wait, you need to
Okay.
determine that.
Yeah.
Mr. Osborne.
I can get with,
Yeah.
and get
Troy's-
that map,
yeah,
so we can
Troy's-
look at it.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Troy did and have the ability to do it today.
Yes, go over
But
there.
he's got to go over there, and he said he would get that ready
Great.
for us.
Thank you.
you had a question, Jim? Mr. Osborne?
One question. When we put in that sewer line on the west side of Spring Valley Road for the residents that live there, we did that rather than the east side of Spring Valley Road because it was more feasible. And I thought that line there was prepared to continue on coming north along Spring Valley to allow those families in.
No, it's not. The houses going further north are a lot lower in elevation.
That's what I just
We
heard.
stopped it back. We could have went on, but like the corner house, he can get onto it. We had to put a lift pump in. Well, they don't want to deal with that. So the next option is tie into the sewer line that's to the west of Spring Valley Road, run it up the backside, and it sets up the rest of that area.
Okay.
Okay, I have something for food for thought, too. The one here that you said you would serve sewer line to, but they're not in the city limits, so food for thought for the city commission. We have no customers unless they're annexed in. So this person, in order for him to tap in, would have to annex. Correct?
Exactly.
Is that your intent?
I think that's the ordinance, is it not?
It is, but I would just want to say, make sure and clarify that, because we currently don't. Because typically, a city, if they did that, would make them have water and sewer, and you would have to, if they're outside the city limits and you wish to serve them, there would be an upcharge. And it's usually as high as 25 to 50%.
Or 200.
Yeah, I've seen them that high, too.
Well, it's a
You have a
benefit
minimum of 25% upcharge if you were allowed them to do it without annexation.
versus a benefit district?
Well, he wouldn't have to be sharing in the cost of this line. He's not part
Just
of
his
the,
property.
he's not part of the agreement.
Bottom line is, if he would come want to annex into the city could negotiate some prices. I mean, there'd be nothing wrong with it. So the point is that, you know, the argument made that these people that we took care of last summer, and what we're talking about now, have been paying city taxes for 12 years. We can make that argument, and,
Sure.
you know, whereas this one paid zero. So if he wanted to allow it, you could charge a different rate per se
For a hookup.
than you would, because he did not participate like they have. Or at least the property, so it might be different owners, of course.
Okay.
You could average the cost over
Yeah.
how the line's been
This is some
extended.
of those, this is one of those things that should have been taken care of 12 years ago or 10 years ago, and it wasn't. and
Right.
Now we're trying to get it straight. We'll move forward and research, make sure, and then work with Leon.
Okay. Next item this evening is going to be to discuss fringe benefits of sworn, for sworn police officers not represented by the Junction City Police Officer Association. Because my husband's a police captain in the department, he works there. I'm going to recluse myself from that and turn this over to Vice Mayor Landis.
So everyone's in big trouble now. So it looks like this is basically just truing up the
Well,
agreement between the union versus
yeah.
non-union.
What you have is let me give you a little history here. There's two big issues that always come up here between the union agreement and the city handbook. And basically, one is the amount of vacation hours they can accrue and get paid for at the end. The city handbook says for police, for everybody can accrue those that are on sick leave. Newer employees, aside from the police and the fire, are on PTO now, so that's a whole different game. The agreement says they can the handbook says they can accumulate up to 240 hours of vacation that can be paid at retirement, 240. There is a clause in the handbook that says the police, BCs, and the chief can go to 480. Why that, I don't know. It does say in there, as you notice, it says in there that the city manager can make an agreement with them, which Mr. Vernon did, and so did Mr. Barnes did, and Mr. Vernon both did. However, in talking to Katie and to Tammy with Katie's firm, that agreement does not attach to the sick leave portion. The sick leave portion in the union agreement for the and I'll just with police here, police says that they are paid 480 hours of sick leave, up to 480 hours of sick leave at retirement. So the way the union agreement reads is if you have 481 hours of sick leave, you get 480. If you have 3,000 hours of sick leave, you get 480.
Exactly.
The city employee handbook says the police, and I believe also the firemen, those that are not included in the union agreement, get 1/4 of their sick leave up to 480. So to get 480, they have to be at 1920. You get 480. Now, we've only had one since I've been here, and he was well beyond the 1920 sick leave. Well beyond. He was a lot more than that, because he was probably 2,600 hours. Now, the city did go ahead, I mean, the HR director last summer did go ahead, and even though it's not in the agreement, or in the ordinance, but part of that so-called side agreement that Mr. Vernon and Mr. Barnes both did, he got paid 480 hours of vacation. And that one's not quite, because that's hours they earned they could have used back then, and that's near as much. The problem you have with any accrued sick leave or vacation leave, and it's this way in every business, is if you allow to accrue that many years, you are paying from a financial standpoint, you're paying for it with today's salary, at today's salary rate, at hours that were earned at this lower rate. I mean, that's everywhere. I mean, it's not just here. So we have that issue. In my opinion, of course, the side agreements that are made by Barnes, and then, of course, Mr. Vernon made the same side agreement again 5 years later, don't carry from manager to manager. I really believe it needs to be part of the handbook, and somewhere along the line. Katie and I have talked. If you want to move this way, there's some things I think we have to talk about first, but we need an additional, do you want to basically move this side agreement
Into the
the handbook? And if so, there's some process. She wants to make sure that we're not doing anything else wrong, so we don't have we don't want to fix one thing and cause another problem. I just believe it's something that I don't think that the city manager should have that authority to do a side agreement like they did, because we're talking about spending dollars. And first of all, I think the sick leave part was never part of the side agreement. It's not in there. It's not covered by the side agreement. And Tammy and Katie both agree with me on that. It was never part of the side agreement. Maybe the vacation was, and like I said, we've only had the one situation. I do believe there has been police lieutenants and captains that have retired, and I don't, or chiefs, that did get paid the 480 sick leave and didn't have the 1920. I believe that happened, but before, I have no idea. But, it was done, but that doesn't mean it's right or wrong or different. Because you're talking a major commitment of funds that the manager made at the time that I don't think he had the authority to make it, but it was made, and so on. I think you got to realize, one side of me is sitting there going, you got the cost, and the other side, you got employees that thought it was okay. I mean, they were led to believe that the agreement was fine. They didn't know. I get that, But I also think that it needs to be approved by the commission. That's why we're here. So if we want to move forward, I would say we get direction to move forward, and then let Katie work through with staff to make sure that we're not creating another problem.
But the question I would ask, if you want us to go forward, is what terms do you want to have in the personnel policy? What changes, if any, do you want to make to the personnel policy? Or do you want the personnel policy to simply incorporate the items that are now in these side agreements?
And as far as I know, there's no side agreement with the fire DCs or the chief. I don't know of any, and there may be one, but I don't know of any.
Well, and this does not affect all the new employees went to PTO.
Not on the union.
Not in the union, but all non-union was PTO.
Yes. So all the dispatchers, all of
You need to understand that
all city employees. We're just talking about,
from when we went PTO in 2012,
12, whatever.
2012, I think, forward was PTO. Anybody new starting with the city was PTO.
And some of the old.
And we'd have to make that clear that
The
this.
calendar 2012?
I'd have to look it up.
Okay.
It was calendar year 2012.
The old employees switched to PTO. You gave them the option during the time.
They were given options, and they gave up the rights of the stuff that was in the handbook that had to do with vacation and sick leave.
Yeah, well, so we'd have to coordinate all of that.
Yes.
And then the other legal issue, according to, Tammy reminded me, Tammy Samoji's the employment lawyer at my firm who advises on these items, that if the decision was made to change something for people who are sort of have or believe they have these benefits now, there are state laws that govern that and your ability to change things retroactively. But you may, the decision may not be to change anything. It may just be to move things, retain the status quo and move it to the employment policy. But we need direction. And if staff has a recommendation against that, that's a business decision.
And with our new HR director, Giselle Rivera, one of the challenges Cheryl will give her is to start working on redoing our employee handbook. That's going to have to wait a month or two because we got some other pending issues that have to be addressed first, i.e. open enrollment. But she'll work on that because there's other things in there. And it appears that there was it was done this way for one employee and this way for another, and that just doesn't work. It
Right.
doesn't work at all. You know,
When I retired in 2008, it was 25% of your sick leave and 25% of vacation time, up to 480 hours of each. So I cashed in 960 hours when I retired.
you can get all your vacation. You got
I got 25%. I got up to
480.
Up to 480.
yeah.
Can we address that? Can we come up and address that?
I don't have a problem with that.
I'm Lieutenant Childs with Junction City Police Department, and I want to disagree with you. We were under the impression that we got to cash in 480 hours upon retirement, not based on 1920. And simple solution to find out what the intent was, ask Chief Story and Chief Brown. They wrote the order that they agreed to. They'll both tell you the intent was to make us closer to the guys in the union, comparable with the guys in the union. The side agreement covered a lot of things, and that's the reason it was. And didn't deal just with money, but to make things comparable to the guys in the union, because we're not part of that. But this all came to light, especially with me, because with an illness I was thinking of retiring. At that point in time is when I discovered I was not going to be able to cash in 480 hours because I didn't have the 1920. And you're right, there was several officers that did get the 480 that didn't have the 1920. One of our issues is this. Right now, under the contract that the association members have, which we have no problem with anything they're getting, and we're not asking for more than what they get. We would like to be equal with them. We supervise them, but they can cash in 480 hours of sick time just by having 480 hours of sick time. But we're expected to have 1,920. It's not fair. It's just not fair. Then there's a few other things like the longevity. They get 4, we get 3. Bereavement, they get 4 days, or 3 or 4, we get 1 less. Most of us that are lieutenants or captains have chose to be members of this department for an extended period of time. We want to be the leaders of this department. But then you have to debate, well, do I really want to do that? Because it's going to hurt me financially by doing that. We just gave a test for lieutenants. We had one person take the lieutenant's test. Reason being, they don't want to come out from under the contract. So we're missing out on good leaders to advance to lead our people because of the benefits they don't get as for advancing in the department. Well, like I said, the side agreement to me, it does say that we get the 480. It says upon retirement you can cash in up to 480. Our goal, our thing on the 480 is when we, as a lieutenant, we don't have a cap on our sick time, so we could keep 4,000 hours on the books. And the reason I believe that it says up to 480 is that way, if we're cashing in a quarter of it and you got 4,000, you can't go over that 480. You can go up to the 480. But that's our interpretation. I've talked to Chief Brown and I talked to Chief Story, and it's their understanding, that's what they meant when they wrote that up, that we would be able to cash in 480 upon retirement, no matter how much you had, as long as you had the 480. And like I said, we're not asking for anything more. We're not addressing money or anything like that at this time. We just want to be able to have the benefits that the people that we supervise have.
And I'm not opposed to that. My point has been the side agreement, it was on 2 city managers. So one changed there, but the interim city manager in between and the city manager before Cheryl was there again were never approached, so they never changed it. And I'm not bound. It needs to be a city commission decision because the dollars that are made.
Exactly.
And it's well beyond, in my mind, what a city manager should do. I'm not arguing that they were a promise agreement. I'm not arguing that. I think the point is, though, that's a city commission decision that needs to be incorporated. The other items that we didn't even mention tonight, I think I want Giselle to look at, we talked about the bereavement and everything else. That needs to be all the employees of the city we look at. And that's something that, again, we'll have her look at when she gets to that point.
And you need to understand that decisions that you make, that these payouts at the end do not affect employees that were hired after 1993.
Like they did
Because
before.
it does not, it only affects the employees hired prior to 1993. Because of the way Capers calculates it now, these large payouts do not affect their Capers benefits. Just so you know, it's only the older employees.
The pre-93 is like...
The seasoned employees.
Well, prior to 1993, hired prior to 1993.
Okay.
Mature.
Hey, that's why I said it that way.
I'm Captain Chuck Lightoff. I'm a captain at the Junction City Police Department also. One thing that Lieutenant Childs failed to mention was we accrue sick leave differently than the fire department, I believe. We accrue it at a less rate because of the way our hours are. We get 8 hours a month of sick leave. So for us to make the 1,920, we have to work 20 years without using any sick leave at all to get to the 1,920. I was under the cap of 1,540 because when Captain Rich retired, he had 1,520 or 1,540. So I'm under that cap. The new officers now are under a 1,040 cap. So anyone lower than a lieutenant is capped at 1,040. Hang on. Is capped at 1,040. So when they reach 1,040, they're done. So if they work 15 or 20 years in their career, never take a sick day, they're capped at 1,040. That means for the next 10 years, they have to figure out how to get 960 hours to accrue that 408, or to get that 480 payout. It's virtually impossible if you have a family or you have children at some point in your career, or if you have an illness, if you get sick, to make that 1,920. The side agreement was, I was here for both of those side agreements. I wasn't a lieutenant or captain at that time. I was just a patrol officer or corporal. These are things that were brought forth to fare up for management level to put them on an equal playing field with the officers. That we got the same benefits because we chose to move into the management field and we didn't get our benefits taken away. So that was just some numbers to throw out there, but they're worth two different caps. When Captain Rich retired, it was 1,520 because that's what he had. So Mr. Barnes put a cap on sick leave for everyone below the rank of lieutenant at 1,520. Then when the new thing came out, they changed it to 1,040 for the newer employees. And if you look back, you can find that in our contracts.
I'm not aware of the 1520. The 1040, the lower amount he made is part of the union agreement that the union agreed to with the city. So I think it's a different game there. And again, I just think this is something that has to be done by the commission, not by a manager. Because I'd be spending dollars or committing dollars that are well beyond dollars that I have the ability to spend without commission approval. And that's why it needs part of the handbook. And that way, it's not one manager after another and walking into not knowing there was a side agreement and everything else. It's part of this here. We had a side agreement with the fire union that actually carried, and why it carried on. They did a side agreement, and I can't remember what it was even about, and it carried on when they did in the 13 negotiations, the contract for 13 to 16. 14, 15, 14 to 16, the side agreement was still in there. It's like, no, a side agreement needs to become part. So the new union agreement you just approved a couple weeks ago, there is no, the side agreement they had is incorporated now. That way it's a nice piece of manageable document that you can work with. And again, I'm not opposed to this here. We just need to make a part of the policy rather than a side agreement that I argue that the city manager didn't have the authority to do. He broke the ordinance. Let's correct it and true it up. That's where I'm at, and that's where it needs to be, and that way the problem is taken care of and it's defined in that. Of course, you've got to realize that any policy made by this city commission could be changed by the next city commission. That's always a risk.
That's true, but
yeah.
but when you have accrual of
Different deal.
benefits,
Yeah, it's a
you know,
little
you
different.
can't retroactively take them away from people. So,
Point is, if you want to move forward with that, we'll have Katie do some additional work.
yes, but.
If you don't want
but
to
I
move
want
forward with
some-
it,
But
yeah.
I need direction as to what, I mean, is it, not, that you wouldn't be making a decision until you adopted a policy I brought to you, but I would want direction as to, are you inclined to, in essence, incorporate the side agreement provisions into the policy with, you know, figuring out who it applies to and all of that, or are you inclined to doing something different? That's really the direction I need.
Well, that's a tough question. The direction you're looking at is over a 20-minute conversation that we have no idea what went on 10 years ago or after that, between those two city managers and beyond. So we don't know what the analysis is going forward over a 20-minute conversation of, we did this and we did that and we moved forward, and do you want us to move forward? Do you want something different? I don't know if we want something different without looking at the analysis of what it means.
Well, the change is no dear. I mean, the bottom line is, and I'll agree with what the officer said, is that I believe there was this has been paid this way, according to the side agreement, since 2005.
Okay.
So increased dollars to the city are not any different. You know, I mean, there'll be in a given years how many retire and everything like that. But what the commitment, extra commitment to the city is really no different. All it is it's putting it in what I feel is a proper business-like manner that we fail to do right now.
And I think that's good. And what I'm hearing is we've done this for the last 12 years.
Yes,
And the employees are under the impression
that's correct.
that this is what they're working under.
Mhm.
So my personal opinion is you don't change it.
Right.
You may want to add it to your book and make it
Well, that way it's
not a side deal.
That way it's done by the commission, because, again,
Okay.
I argue that it should have, but I also, in defense of the employees, they didn't know that.
Yeah, and the reason there's two reasons there's confusion about the authority to do it. So we're just trying to put it, if you want to do it, put it in the right place so it's done correctly. That is, first of all, there's a big question as to whether it's binding on during Alan's tenure, because it says an agreement with the city manager. Well, he's never entered into this agreement. His predecessors did, but there's, you know, in my mind, there's a serious legal question about whether they can bind a future city manager, because if they can, then you could never change it. You know, it'd be forever, and that can't be.
Right.
And the second part is the portion of the memorandum of agreement that deals with anything other than vacation. The policy doesn't allow for that. The policy only allows a side agreement relating to vacation.
Not.
And so, and what they've been talking about mostly tonight is
Sick
sick
leave.
leave,
Mhm.
which is dealt with in the side letter, but the policy doesn't say it can be dealt with in the side letter. So
clean it up.
that's outside even of the authority. So to
Even
clean it
though-
up, we would just take those provisions with whatever, you know, changes we have to make or clarifications we have to make to, you know, clarify that this only applies to people who aren't PTO and those other things. Just put it in the policy. And then bring the policy to you and have you approve the policy. That's sort of, the direction I'm asking is that the direction, you don't have to approve it when I bring it to you, but I want to bring you something in writing. I could bring alternatives.
Something we could
Something you can look at.
actually look at
yeah,
and understand.
yeah,
But I don't want to go too far until we kind of knew
yeah.
a trend here where we want to be. And again, it just needs to be because,
It's to clean it up as much as.
and that way it's action taken by the commission rather than by a city manager probably didn't have the authority to do it.
And I hope what you bring to us mirrors for the promoted officers, what the,
Well, I'm asking you to tell me
Well-
what.
that's what I would like to see.
Okay,
That-
because
that-
that's
that-
your policy.
That the policies
mirror.
There was a
what the
similar issue
employees
2
have.
years ago with the fire department. Guys didn't want to advance because they weren't going to get, any increase in the pay or anything else. And so, it sounds like we have a similar problem
Yeah.
in the police
Well,
department.
we
need to encourage guys to want to advance.
The salary problem, and I'm not going to argue that, is harder to fix just because of our budget situation. I mean, it is what it is, and I'll be very honest about that. The other things I think can be, and like I said, they had a list of items they wanted me to talk about, but it's like, these were the big two-ticket items I think we needed to touch about first, and they named one of their lieutenants as kind of the liaison between me, and we kind of came that we'll address these two first and then address all that. Because, I mean, we have one group of employees that gets 2 days of bereavement, some get 3 days of bereavement leave. I don't have any issue with 3, and because it's not that often. And in fact, there's arguments that we should even increase that when you lose a spouse or a child. I mean, and I don't think there's any big issues with those things. And that needs to be cleaned up in our whole handbook for everybody, which Giselle is going to address those issues as she moves forward. And those are easy issues to talk about. And again, bereavement time is one of those things. Hopefully it doesn't happen very often. And, most cities anymore are moving to 3 and 5. I know I've had 3 and 5, 3 for certain members, and, spouse might be 5 just because of all the issues that go with it. And God, we want to work with our employees during that time. That's not an issue. Now, we're not going to include aunts and uncles because I've had that discussion with somewhere else. But you can work through those issues. I think the ticket items, the one that at least appeared to me were these two, were basically the side agreement items that covered those. The side agreement didn't cover anything else as far as the other issues, but it did cover those two pieces. And again, I just argue that we need to put it in the right form, that way it's done properly, because if we make the argument that I'm not bound by that, I'm going to go, it needs to come here because I don't have the authority to spend that kind of dollars.
Well, I think the non-union folks should be as important to us as the union folks. I think they all should be on the same playing field.
But it's never been addressed because it was addressed in a form that I argue
Agreed.
should have came a different way.
Agreed.
So if that's, if that was the will of the commission, it's an easy fix to bring you a revised policy.
That's my opinion.
I agree.
And again,
I
I'm not
agree.
binding you to vote on anything
Right.
until I bring you the revised policy, but we
Right.
can bring it to the next meeting. And it'll mirror the letter agreement on these matters.
Commissioner Sands?
I just want to make sure one thing, when we have retirees work 1040 and that's all they can get and they can't go beyond that, which means we entrust so much to these folks, these emergency responders that work and give all of their body, all of their life to being able to retire. And it sounded like what was told to me, if they work 30 years, 40 years to get that 1040, they're still going to have to find work afterwards. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I heard.
1040 is in the union contract with sergeants and below. That is their contract, a contract they negotiated with the city. The 1040, now, of course, I agree with Captain Lido's argument that if you came out of the union, you're locked at 1040. Now, if you're going to try to get to the 1920, but what they're wanting, and they thought they had with the side agreements, is the same thing the union employees have, that it's 480.
480 hours.
Now, what the union employees had different, if you want to put a difference in here, the union employees have a payout of 480, but a max of 1080, whatever number you said. Okay, 1040. That was their max. So if they got in a situation, they worked there for 20 years, and we have some sergeants there for 20 years, aren't we? Yeah, I know we do. And they're maxed at 1040. So if they come towards the last end of their career and they get a major health issue, they're going to cap out at 1040, or they'll do the 600 and some, back down to 480, get to 480 and walk. They'll do that, perhaps, depends on their situation. The difference with the lieutenants and captains are, even though they may come out at 1040, they're allowed to go higher than 1040, but according to the city handbook. So the point is if they want to be treated like an employee, arguably, and Katie and I will talk about this, do we lower the max amount of hours of sick leave they can to match the max amount of sick leave that the employees get, the union get? And that's another argument. That's for another day, and we'll talk about that. The 15-something, I've never heard of that one. I'm not saying there wasn't. I'm finding a lot of things that may have happened that we don't know about, but none of us have ever heard of the 15-something. I'm not saying it didn't happen, though, but we just don't know about it. And that's why it needs to be in the handbook. That's why it needs to be approved by the commission. And that way, staff then works with the agreement and uses it.
Because it's a small percentage that go higher, that make it to the top,
Well,
or even into the higher echelons. There are some that are just great sergeants, and that's where they'll stay when they retire. Not everybody can be a lieutenant, not everybody can be a captain, and not everybody can be a chief of police. So if those differ, there should be that incentive, and that's what I'm missing. It sounds like you're
they
not...
get their 480.
Yeah.
The union employees get 480 at retirement automatically if they have 480 or more. According to the city policy, not the side agreement, but the policy, and again, we'll argue the side agreement was not allowed to be into. Again, I don't know what the employee handbook was in 2005. That's the only thing I don't know. The side agreement says that they can accumulate more than 1,000. They can go to 2,500.
Sure.
Which the advantage of that is if they had a life,
Threatening, sure.
you know, and I had a friend that had emphysema, had to retire, and basically had, you know, almost a year of sick leave, and he was able to get out until that point where, you know, he passed on, which is a great benefit to his family. So there is a give and take in there, too. So that's the thing we have to talk about here, you know. And again, things, you know, as we move to different employees, but like I said, the union employees have some, they agreed to the 1080 or 1040, whatever the number is, 1040. They agreed to it as a group of people.
Okay.
You know, what we're talking about is just a side agreement, which I argue needs to become part of the policy, and we'll work towards that.
Okay. Sounds good.
I think we're all agreed.
Okay. Okay. It's a good idea to take care of employees. Moving on to the next item this evening is consider the request from the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development Committee for increased marketing funds. Mr. Dinkle.
I am carrying the ball here for Mickey Dean. Mickey, of course, Economic Development Director. She's at a conference, which I think one thing I'm real happy with, and Economic Development and Junction City First is doing a major contribution by paying a lot of Mickey's expense to go to these things, so I think it's a good involvement and hopefully create business. She came to me about 2 weeks ago and says she wants to get involved with some site selection magazines. I had a little bit of her letter she wrote to you. The cost is $17,500. She has different funds. She got $6,600 from Junction City First, $2,500 from Corvius, $2,000 out of her budget, leaves about $6,400. She is asking if the City Commission would consider giving the $6,400. One reason why I think you might want to consider it is the fact that we always budget. We levy about $1 million for economic development, about $175,000 and change. We give them about 130, so 132.5. We give them 132.5. That was done a few years ago. Great move by the city because there was some money available, and we've had those funds available. Lifestar needed some addition to their building. The city had that little pot of money to do that, to keep Lifestar here, economic development. When we had the listening tour for Fort Riley 2.5 years ago, the city had funds available because we spent some money that day, money well spent. You know, I really believe, from my standpoint, I would recommend that you give her the $6,400 to move forward this. I think Mickey's making some moves. She wants to. We're going to be right or wrong, but I'm willing to take a risk on this one, I mean, from my standpoint, recommendation, because I think she is moving a lot of things in a positive standpoint, and I think this would give her maybe some ammunition to move that way. And we have the funds available because of the extra we have in the EDC.
Exactly. I think this is the right move to go, and we continue to do the same thing, we get the same results. And sometimes we got to do something a little different from what I saw. And this is a way of looking out of the box, stepping out of the box and getting in a little bit uncomfortable, but seeing the results, what have come to some of the communities that have expounded. And look, I think we should move forward. It's something I think that would be good for the city, good for the community, and good for our constituents.
and it might eventually sell land bank lots.
Number one.
And bring businesses and jobs here. We hired an economic development director, and with oversight, I think we need to pursue things that are going to help this community, so I'm in favor of it.
She sent me a note today, because like I said, she couldn't be here. She says, "Conference so far successful. I had an awesome conversation with a new site consultant. She invited me to come to Dallas to talk to her about JC." That's what we need.
That's
Yes.
it.
Does that fund that we hold back, does that accumulate?
Yes,
What is the balance of that fund at this time?
about 650,000.
But that includes money from buildings
Yes.
and other stuff. I mean,
How many
that's
years-
Clawbacks and
that's
things
not
like
the
that.
1 mil.
Right.
No, that's just not the 1 mil.
So how many years have we been holding? Forever?
5, 6,
4 for sure.
yeah.
But lease payments were in there and a lot
Yes.
of other things
Mhm.
too,
You have to-
so it wasn't just.
It
the-
has an expensive
that
budget
piece we
too.
hold back.
You have to remember,
just
we're also
wanted to know
paying
what the-
for,
Sure,
Bucket look like?
yep.
we're also paying for the Cap Gemini building out of that fund now too. And the rent is coming in higher than what the payout is now.
Thank goodness.
But,
It's always a good thing.
yeah, but that's only on a 6-year lease and that's half done, so.
Okay.
That's where ACCG
Well-
is.
I would move to approve the funding of the $6,400 to the EDC.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
On here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Next item this evening is going to be the consideration to award the 2017 Clink resurfacing project bid to APAC Kansas Incorporated in an amount of $488,775.40.
That
Madam
40
Mayor,
cents, that's
Commissioners, we're looking for the consideration and approval for the 2017 Clink resurfacing project, which would go from Washington, would be on Washington Street from 6th Street to 18th Street. Clink's program by KDOT allows for local communities to complete pavement improvements, primarily pavement overlay improvements along state transportation routes within the community, and it's based on community population. And Junction City's participating ratio would not be 50%, and KDOT's would be 50%. And this year, KDOT's match would be up to $300,000. Call Valley was awarded to develop the preliminary plans, construction estimates, and quantities for the material bidding for the 2017 Clink resurfacing project. We went out for bid, open bid on May 25th, and there were 2 bidders for the project, APAC Shears, APAC Kansas, for $488,775.40. Buyer Construction Incorporated for $698,865.50. The engineer's estimate for the Clink project was $587,912. APAC's low bid was $99,137 under the engineering's estimate. KDOT's share of the participating items is $217,914, and the city share for the Clink resurfacing is $270,861.40. We did get the approval from KDOT on June 2nd to go ahead and award the project, and so therefore we're looking to award the bid to APAC Shears for $488,775.40.
I have a question. Did we discuss that it was just going to go to Home Street and not all
Yeah,
the way to 18th?
it's just going to Home, or 17th Street. We had to cut off because if you notice, when Ray said the numbers that KDOT has and what we have are not 50/50.
Yeah.
Because this winter, KDOT says, whoa, we no longer, even though we have in the past here and did in Abilene and everything else, they're not going to pay for the portion that's parking. So where I pull my car in front of a business on Washington Street over here, they're not sharing 50/50 in that. That's 100% city.
Okay.
The good part about it is that we're able to use that same unit cost, though. So we got the unit cost break, and so that'll figure it out. And that's why the
There's $52,000,
difference here, and we're paying
$52,947.
more. With doing that, and in the funds that they had to work with, they quit at it's actually called Home Street, 17th Street, and then 17th to 18th, and 18th over to Jackson is in part of a C-clip,
C-CLIP
application
project.
to make, because Clink is going now, it's C-CLIP. The good part about C-CLIP is it's 80/20 versus a 50/50. The bad side about it is it took all the projects and threw them in a big competitive pool, whereas Clink was a little more automatic, whereas C-CLIP may not be. We'll know later this summer if we got a C-CLIP.
So right now, we're just going to go to 17th, so we're going to have that one little block that's not going to,
Right.
right.
Home
Correct.
Street or, yeah.
Signal has intersections, you either want to stay back away from where the striping starts putting out for the left turn bay, or you want to go all the way through and do the whole thing. Stop short. We'll include it in the next project.
So eventually it will be done, right, okay.
If we get a C-CLIP.
Oh, it does. And I think I was thinking 18th Street.
Okay, I'll be a devil's advocate here. What if we don't do it at all this year, and we do it next year where we can get the 80/20?
We may not-
Just a thought.
No, we didn't apply, we applied
didn't-
for,
We already submitted
The
the
application.
All right, just thinking.
Nice try.
I'll try
That
not
80/20.
to do that
I
anymore.
like that 80/20.
but 50/50 is a bird in the hand.
Right.
Understood. Just trying
That'd be
to
a-
stretch things out.
Well, I get that, but we don't know what if we did that and try to C-CLIP for that, or did C-CLIP and forget this year, we
We
may
may not
never
get it
get
done.
it because the next program is their next program.
Probably be a clunk next time
Could well be,
instead
sir.
of a clink.
We met on the C-CLIP project, and from what we gathered, there were like 78 applicants for that project.
Okay,
That money.
let's move forward.
Good
Take the
thought.
bird.
That
Yes.
helps.
Thinking.
I move to approve the award of the 2017 Clink resurfacing project in the amount not to exceed $488,775.40 to APAC Kansas Incorporated, Salina, Kansas, as presented.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, any further discussion?
Nothing.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners.
Next item up this evening is going to be the consideration to award the 2017 street maintenance program to APAC Kansas in the amount of $1,127,902.10. That's that whole.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, we're looking for approval for the award of bid for the 2017 street maintenance project. As you know, the city has budgeted $1.1 million for the street fund for street maintenance improvements for 2017. Call Valley was awarded to develop preliminary plans, construction estimates, and quantities for the material for the bidding of the 2017 street maintenance project. Call Valley went out for bids again on May 25th. We had two bidders again, that being APAC Kansas for $1,127,902.10 and Buyer Construction at $1,237,563.55. The engineer's estimate for the project was $1,273,861. APAC's low bid was $145,959 under the engineer's estimate. The 2017 street maintenance project will consist of milling and overlaying 21 segments of street roadway. The funds available in the street fund, and we are requesting that we award the low bid to APAC Shears for $1,127,902.10. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Do we have an identified plan as to how we're going to attack that project?
Yes, Call Valley has some maps right here.
Thank you.
Oh, goody.
Thank you.
Good job.
We can
Thank you.
Still missing one street. I'm just saying,
Most important street in town?
the most important street.
what we tried to do.
Ray, describe how you pick these streets.
What we tried to do was do some connecting to what we have milled and overlaid already, and then trying to get down in some of the business routes. One of the major routes that you can see is 8th Street, which would be the upper north one there. We'll go from 8th Street, from where we stopped off at Jackson, and go all the way to East Street. We're also doing some of 7th Street down through the business areas. And then you can see where we've gone in some of the residential areas along Garfield and Parkside area right in there, because we stopped right there off of Garfield, coming off of Ash Street, coming down through Countryside and Bunker Hill. And then we look back around to some worse areas where we had to do a lot of pothole patching, like around Custer Road, Dean Avenue, those areas right in there. So that was our thought process, to try to be able to get that, so we can tie all those segments together.
So Ray, over the last, several years, how many miles of streets have been taken care of? Do you know?
Not right off the top of my head, Madam Mayor.
Almost $3 million worth.
Well,
Yeah. Good answer.
well, with all the we're going to end up this year with the Clean project, of course, Golden Belt from last year carrying over.
Yeah, we are.
We're going to make substantial improvement.
Right.
Again, I wish we had 3 times the amount of funds, but
Sure.
we don't.
Okay, we are then.
And with this said, just remember that as we get into the project, like last year, these may change a bit. We had a street last year that, I'll admit, we frickin' missed it. I mean, everybody, we missed it, and a guy brought up my attention, why are you leaving that one block?
Yeah.
You guys remember that?
Yep.
And it was like, hey, we need to, so we cut off the end of their piece. It worked out, and that way you don't be running trucks back over for a little piece down the road,
Right.
over your new stuff, and
So Ray, do you have a plan or some formula or some guidance that you go by when you're deciding what streets, and I take it you have the time in your schedule to be able to rate the streets, or?
Madam Mayor, we got that paver system, and we try to work off that paver system. So that's how we decide which streets we should do and which streets we shouldn't do for right now. And it kind of lays it out for us and shows us, these are the ones you should be spending your money on versus those, because those are complete reconstruct, will cost you more money than to do these right now at this particular time and moment.
It's a software rating system.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's a software rating system.
I mean, we go out there and
Yeah, we examine them.
Takes a windshield, and then there's the
Yeah.
software, and you grade it. I have very extensive experience
Yeah.
with paver.
Yeah.
And I can help you with another street or two if you need it.
Those streets are beyond.
Wouldn't be Spring Valley Road, would it?
Just saying.
That's like city, county, and
no, that one's all city down there.
That's all city.
All
We
city.
really need to do something on that one, then.
But that may need to be concrete too, to match the other concrete.
Well,
Someday.
and it's one of those streets that's beyond just a little
Yeah.
simple patch.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
needs
Yes.
to become a concrete street.
Major money.
Okay.
There is no
Pancake
shortage of
fields,
places
sales,
to spend money.
Garage sales. Mr. Iber, I haven't seen the paver system in a while. I've had folks come over to me and said, when are we going to get into Westwood? We pay taxes. And I told them we have a system that we've used. I can't tell you when we're going to get over there. And I should have referred them to you, but I told them to come down and check with the city. But I also told them to show up here and talk. But I told them I would bring that question forward because I don't get over in Westwood area very much, but I run into people regularly and said, when are you going to do something with our streets? There's a little bit being done this year,
I was going to say, we're
a
there.
little bit, but it's what we have in our budget and what we can afford to do.
Commissioner Sands, I know that we've had done some micro-surfacing on that area, like along Westwood Boulevard, doing that section from, I believe, from 14th Street all the way, I thought, back to about 21st Street or somewhere in there. We've done some of that stuff in there, and then we've done Eisenhower. We just milled and overlaid last year Eisenhower all the way from 6th Street all the way to 17th Street, up to that point. And when we've done that microsurfacing, we don't want to go ahead and just rip up the microsurfacing, because you're trying to get 5 or 6 years out of that,
Okay.
and it doesn't make sense to go ahead and ruin that segment of roadway just to try to overlay it, and you just wasted your money doing that. So when we do the rating, we'll look at it and see what it is and where we need to be when we get ready to do another mill and overlay, and we'll make that determination from that.
Okay. There was some talk years back about a machine that Salina had that went through and it kind of x-rayed the streets and gave us an idea of what it looked like underneath the streets. And that was when we had the city engineer. Was there a cost involved with that, or was there a reason?
Yeah, there's a certain cost involved with that. I know Manhattan is doing that, and they said something about they would get with me and talk to me. The Public Works Director said maybe we can look at that, and maybe there's some cost sharing or something, and we'll see if that's feasible for us to do something like that.
Okay. You know, like I said, we have 155 miles of streets in the city, and even though this looks like a good bit, we still have a lot that we don't do, and what we have that's put in place is holding up pretty good. I'm glad to see our major streets looking good. I just wish people would help us keep them clean by trying to keep their grass clippings out of them, and we would really appreciate that.
Got that plug in.
I'm putting it in. I'm not done yet. All right, thank you, Mr. Ibarra.
I think we had excellent bids. We got a second bidder this year. I had warned Chad when he opened them up that if he was low bid, he was doing it, and he didn't come low bid, so he lost out 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I move to approve the award of the 2017 street maintenance program in the amount of not to exceed $1,127,902.10 to APAC Kansas Company Incorporated, Salina, Kansas, as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Nothing here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Ibarra.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Commissioners.
Next item up this evening is going to be the consideration to waive the bid process and purchase one medium rescue truck for $85,000, estimated travel expenses of $1,800, and estimated lettering and stripping and radio expenses for $3,000. Chief Johnson.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Commissioners. Before you in the packet, the hazardous materials team leader and the rescue team leader approached, and they've been working on this project. What we're asking is to purchase this unit from a volunteer organization in New York. It is a medium rescue unit. It will allow us to be more flexible for specialized events and allow us to participate in the regional task force scenarios with tools and equipment that right now are in a trailer or in the floor of the fire station or in our storage building. We have a lot of equipment that we do have. We have a lot of equipment on our engines and our aerials. But there are times when we need more of a certain piece of equipment. If it's a hazardous material incident, we need more of the absorbent or more overpacked barrels or special Tyvek suits or something like that. Also, with technical rescue, instead of if we go to the county to assist or we go to Manhattan to assist, we have a unit that we do not, so we can reduce the amount of time we're taking one of our frontline units instead. So there's a lot of options there. We have a capabilities to effectively respond to special incidents and participate in the regional and local teams. These services will provide for the community, for the fire department to manage resources of special catastrophic events. Right now, we're limited. We have a trailer. We have an opportunity to join the regional team as part of their structural search and rescue. But we have to have a way to get there. We have to have a way to move it. And this is special equipment. These are wood struts and or struts and things we use to hold structures up so we can search structures and be a part of that. There's in our region, they do have space for our rescue technicians to join that. And they would like us to join it, being a part of that and having that specialized training. So if we have a catastrophic event like a tornado, we can start the process and then we can bring the teams in to join us. So those are some of the things. to engage the needed technical rescue, or to give us a piece of equipment that can support any technical rescue needs, water rescue, or any of the other specialty rescues that we have to get involved in. We have something that can support it and carry the specialized equipment that the engines don't have space for. So also, if you look at it, if you go on the vendor sites, if we put it out for bid, you're looking at trucks of similar size or even smaller trucks starting at around $115,000 to $275,000. And if we go out for a new truck, you're looking at $200,000 to $300,000 to get a medium-sized rescue truck. The department that's selling it, the reason why they're selling it is they have a small station, and they have a 30-year-old tanker truck or tender truck. And they don't use the rescue truck. They need another tender. So they want to sell this truck so they can buy a newer fire truck for their service. It comes with a cascade system. It comes with everything that we need in the fire department to sustain operations. And if you have any technical questions, these two gentlemen can answer that for the responses and those things.
And Chief, you said it comes with the equipment?
Not all the equipment. No, sir. It comes with a cascade system, but all the equipment on it, no, sir. We have enough equipment that we can make sure we have what we need.
And you can charge air tanks in the field as well?
Yes, sir. That'll give us that capability. Also, if we have a technical hazmat scene where we need to put someone in a line, what they call it, a landline or airline, the person can be breathing off of those bottles. So he has a longer amount of time to do his work instead of the short amount of time that the air pack gives you.
The items or the things that you talk about that you can use it for and everything, have y'all had to do a lot of those type of operations where you've had to pull it all together and over time?
We had to rob from this to this to get it to all come together, part to this. And we do it, we end up doing it, but by the time we get there, equipment's here, this equipment's here. This would be a ready-go truck. It would be used for callback as well with the fire structure. There's a seat, there's a 4-man crew of air pack seats with a 5-man seating in this truck. Air packs we support our air packs, but people to help that out as well. But yeah, gander around just to get stuff to get there.
And you find you have to do it quite often?
Here and there, not as often. We've had, the duck hunter at Milford. We've had a couple water rescues. Manhattan's had 4 water rescues last year. So we're due. We have a lot of water around our area, a lot of ponds. We have most of the equipment we've acquired with the help of PD as well. It's just getting some kind of vehicle to support all this instead of 3 different vehicles.
A lot of the stuff is scattered on the 3 different vehicles sitting in the corner of the station, in our storage building, kind of scattered all over.
Would this save you guys from having to hook up to a trailer before you respond to a call? Would this be loaded to the point where you could just jump in it, turn the key, and go?
We will have some hazmat stuff on it, but most of the hazmat stuff will still be in the trailer, but it'll be a tow vehicle for the trailer.
Right.
Right now, our tow vehicle has a skid unit in it, and it's loaded down with water and brush equipment.
So it would be overloaded if you put a trailer on it?
You put a trailer on the back of it, it can kind of be overloaded.
You have to remember, we did that because the '89 Ford truck that we had showed it lived its life, put it that way, in our service.
You say you have 30 members on this technical rescue team. Is that an ongoing process of training, or I assume almost all firefighters have specialties in this rescue piece? How does that work?
We do right now. Tim has about 5 technical hazmat team technicians. They had to get recertified. And on the technical side of the road, confined space, water, rescue, we have about 25 that are interested, and we are already started the process with KU, getting people certified with you have to get a Chapter 5 test, then you get rope 1, rope 2, then we become structural collapse people to be a part of this Kansas task force team. There's 7 regions, 7 teams in the state of Kansas. Rescue Task Force 2 with Manhattan. they advised us if you would get structural collapse team going, that we would be into their team. And to do that, we have started the process a lot.
Okay. Good. One last question on hazardous response. And I knew a little bit back then. Fort Riley has a mission to respond to hazardous responses out on 70, or is that us, or is it shared between the two of us?
I think since 9/11 happened, a lot of that Fort Riley stays on post mostly. They don't do a lot of stuff off of post. A lot of the hazmat stuff is done out of Manhattan now. We would be a member of Manhattan's team once we get going. We can throw the equipment around and get on their team. They're needing some members. Process of getting that worked in with them too.
Okay. And this truck is the right size truck, not ambulance 5? We couldn't filter that? Okay.
The ironic thing about Medic 5 is that we've actually put that in service a couple times. So having it's a godsend when we have trucks, ambulances in maintenance, and we're doing transfers and we have EMS calls. It still gives us that flexibility to provide service to the community.
It's a good-looking truck.
Will this be kept at Station 2? I've seen
Yes,
you've
sir.
already got
Yes, sir.
room lined out for it.
Yes, sir.
Well, I move to approve the purchase of one medium rescue truck for $85,000 and an estimated travel expense of $1,800.
Plus the lettering, striping, and radio,
Plus the letter, striping, and radio communications.
$3,000.
$3,000.
Second.
It's not in here. Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
None here.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, Commissioners, thank you.
Next item this evening is going to be an executive session.
For attorney-client privilege, include my 20 minutes to include myself, Mr. Keith Henry with Special City Legal Counsel, and Bruce McMillan.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. 20 minutes?
Second.
All those in favor?
Yeah, vote.
Aye.
Aye.
2 minutes is running.
Motion and a second.
Come on, guys.
Aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, we're back in. Thank you. All right, so the next item this evening is going to be Commissioner comments. And so, going to start off with Commissioner Sands.
Good. I'm pretty happy to see how things are going around the city. We look really good, and most of our professional grass cutters are doing a great job of cleaning up behind themselves. Yeah, we are in Kansas, and I understand a lot of winds come along and blow the grass away, but in some cases we need help, and we can't hire enough people in the city to help keep our streets clean. So this is an ask if you would help, maybe just once a month, just sweep your curbs. Blow your grass clippings back into your own yard rather than in my yard from them being blown away. But let's help make our city look better. One of the things with this money that we're about to spend, I talked to a gentleman the other day and we were talking about how clean Europe was, and he came back and says Kansas is a very clean state in a comparison to Europe. And he was absolutely right. And then he continued on. He says, if we can make our curbs and our places look better. I'm working with some young folks who are wanting to go out and find seniors that we can possibly help out. It's about 4 or 5 guys, but we want to show them how to work, and they want to do some community work. So I think I'll get with buildings, and well, not buildings and grounds, but codes, and see if we can find some of those residents that are out there, and maybe we can come in with these young guys and teach them some work ethics. But we got a project for next week. I won't tell you what it is until it's done, and we'll come back and talk about it. One thing for the and I probably could ask this in an email, but I didn't do it. Is there a way we can get our packets on Thursday nights? It provides for a little bit more time, but it's we got it once and it was really good.
It's Friday morning.
Huh?
That means Friday morning, right?
Well, no, we meet on Tuesday. Last week was, well, first of all, last week was weirder because...
That's a 4-day weekend.
Because of 4-day week.
Yeah.
And once in a while, we get curveballs thrown at us, and we deal with, Shauna deals with them, I don't deal with them. And handle them.
Something to think
I'd
about.
have to cut more, I'd probably have to just say, stuff would have to wait till the next meeting then, which may not be good, you know. I mean, this is probably a standard in a lot of communities, a Friday before Tuesday or Friday before Monday even. It has to fall in place. I mean, I'm not saying we can't do it, but to get the maximum amount of stuff on the agenda with items to keep them more pertinent to be acted on to wait, it's worked. I mean, it works well. We could try, but I'm not going to promise anything because, like I said, this week was just things were flying at us. This one was big time flying, and it's just nobody's fault. It's just one of those weeks.
Okay, Madam Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Sands. Commissioner Ryan?
As you all know, Livermore, Geary County applied for a grant through the Blue Cross Blue Shield Pathways to a Healthy Kansas, and we secured a site visit, which happened this morning, and we had about 32 people with us to meet with Pathways representatives, and the meeting went very well. You could tell just by the body language of the people that they were excited about what we showed them, what we talked about, the camaraderie between the people who were present, the fact that we really do know how to collaborate and work together. It was an amazing meeting. Then for our site visit, we went out to Helen's Park and went back and took everybody back to look at the retention pond and visited about the potential of the area and had a really good conversation. We got to visit with one of the Hams construction foremans, but we had a shield. We held Alan out in front of us, and actually, it was funny. With collaboration, it's always about working on things and building things on top of each other and making things work together to find synergies to save money. And Alan was talking about how much of that was going on, the retention pond being built to help with downstream flooding in our city, but it also saved the construction company money. At about this time, the foreman came up there to see why there's 15 people standing up here on his construction site, but when he drove up, he recognized Alan right off. So we didn't get chewed on. It was just a friendly conversation. But he almost verbatim repeated everything Alan had just said 3 minutes before, about how everything worked well together to make things go well on the project. And that was the underlying theme that those people had heard all morning. We have people from Delivering Change. We have people from the Geary Community Healthcare Foundation, the Health Department. If I start, I'm forgetting people. It was a long list. But it was a very good meeting, and I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you.
Oh, you can keep talking.
I think he's done.
So it surprises you when I get excited about something, doesn't it?
No, it's kind of surprising tonight you've got glasses on. I thought I had a new commissioner up here.
I broke my glasses and they put my lenses in a set of geek frames to keep me going.
Commissioner McAllister?
I just wanted to mention that over the past week, the Memorial Day observances, Veterans Alliance had an observance, Fort Riley had an observance, the Knights Templar had an observance. The fly-in was well attended, biplane fly-in. I thought that was great. The block party that was held here on 7th Street, I was up very early and drove down 7th Street just to make sure that what I'd seen the night before was cleaned up and tidy, and it was. The Arts in the Park was well attended. I enjoyed that. And I just wanted to continue what Commissioner Sands said, blight continues to be an issue, and we're going to keep working on it, and it's going to take everybody to make sure that we clean things up, cut grass, keep grass out of the curbs, those things. It's a continual fight, and it's going to be up to everybody to cure that. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Landis?
A few things. Wanted to see when the dates are for AUSA this year. Plan for time off this fall, so when you
Okay.
get those, just shoot them to me.
October something.
October,
That's
that's helpful.
They're down to 31 days.
Wow.
I'll tell you in a second.
Good call.
Mid-October, like 13, 14.
Looked it up before.
Hang on. Keep talking, I'll tell you in a second.
Enjoyed the biplane flying this past weekend. Big thanks to Jim Clark and all his volunteers for putting that together. It's a tremendous event. I look forward to discussions regarding the land bank, what opportunities and proposals we get from local local real estate executives. The farmers market started at the hospital this past week, so it's every Thursday in the Ash Street parking lot from 4 to 7 p.m. So a lot of great stuff out there. Come on out. Let's see, the Brigade baseball team had their first home game this past Saturday night and another one last night. They are 3-1 to start the year, so they're doing well. The new additions out at the ballpark this year, the restrooms and new concrete areas, were much appreciated out there. I've had quite a few complaints the past several years about the PA system out there. No fault of Dewey's, certainly, but I think the speakers probably could use a replacement or something like that, so it's something we probably ought to look into as far as what the cost could be. Not saying we have to do it this year, but it's something that we need to look into. And Madam Mayor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, between the four of them, they covered quite a bit of the things that's been going on, so just kind of add a little bit to what's already been said. This past weekend, if you live in Junction City, Geary County, there was at least 5, 6, 7 different major events that was going on. So if you were at a loss for something to do, then you missed out on a lot of really, really good things that was going on in the community. I know Commissioner McAllister talked about the block party on 7th Street, but there was also one at Heritage Park with the police night out, which was attended by a great number of citizens as well. I have attended a lot of things lately. They're in the past now, so just to touch on a couple of them. The 1st Division Band played at the Opera House real recently. I had the opportunity to run with the Special Olympics torch run, so that was 3.5 miles that I ran with the police officers and the Special Olympians from Grant Gate to Heritage Park, so that's really an honor to be able to run with those Special Olympians who are very dedicated and enjoy the Olympics as well. I also attended Freshman Success Academy had a program that was called the Relationship Goals Program at their school this past week. And I was very impressed with that program because it was a grant program that they had gotten for the summertime or for the spring, but they've since got the grant for the whole school year. And what it did was it allowed the kids in the 7th grade and the 9th grade to be a part of that relationship goals program. So they learned all about relationships and had a lot of artwork on how they would communicate with each other, communicate with a girlfriend or a boyfriend or their parents, and really learn how to be respectful and how to talk to people. And so the program will continue this coming school year, and a lot of those kids that were in that program are going to be mentors, which is a good program. So you have kids mentoring other kids. So I thought that was a very good event that was put on at the Freshman Success Academy. On June the 8th of this week is the 1st Infantry Division's 100th birthday. So they have a couple of things that will be going on Fort Riley. They had the big victory run in the morning. A couple hours later, they have their victory with honors ceremony, so it is the 100th anniversary of the 1st Infantry Division. Also later in the month, on the 14th, is the Army's 242nd birthday. Just thought I'd throw that out there since, we are a military-affiliated town. A couple of things that are coming up, Jim's already talked about, the Juneteenth is coming, Symphony in the Flint Hills is coming up.
They need volunteers, too.
And absolutely, because we did get if you want to volunteer for Symphony in the Flint Hills to help with some of the things that they need help with, parking and stuff like that, they do need some volunteers, and you can get with the Emergency Management Office, Gary Burgess, if you're interested in getting signed up for any of that. One other thing that I attended this past Friday was the WIC Family Day at, I don't know if you...
Family Fun Day. I was
Family
there.
Fun Day at Playground Park, Fifth Street Park, and I did see Commissioner Ryan there playing games. Anyways, it was really good. It was a really, really good turnout, and they had the park really set up well. There probably was about 35 or 40 different, or maybe more booths out there, and so that was a really good attended event of the things that are available to families here in the community. And with that, in a nutshell, that's what's been going on. And one thing that I did do this past Friday as well, I set up this thing, it's called Walk and Talk with the Mayor. So we met at 8 o'clock at Heritage Park, and I asked the city manager to also attend that, which he did. I attribute that to be a successful event. I had an adult who showed up, and I had two high school kids, a senior and a sophomore, I think he was a sophomore. Anyways, the two young men were there because they want to learn more about our community and see what's available for them to do out here for community involvement, volunteer type work. And the lady who attended was Sarah Talley. And she spoke about ensuring that we continue our relationship and partnership that we do with the school district. She talked more with the city manager, a bit more about that. And then when we were done, after we cleaned up the downtown, because I kind of incorporated a little bit of let's clean up the downtown as well, there was a Vietnam veteran waiting for me in the park just to visit with me a little bit as well. So it was a good thing, and I will continue to do that. Probably try to do it once a month and see how that goes. But with that, that's pretty much what I've been doing. So with that, Mr. Dinkle, do you have anything?
Yes, I do, ma'am. Thank you. As you know from my 515 last week, our insurance proceeds issue we had on the Bluff Fire last year all got taken care of. It works like it's supposed to. It guarantees, as I've always told it, that the city is held harmless when somebody has a disaster. It's insured. They take care of their stuff, and they walk away. They got the interest they had and everything. It did everything it's supposed to do. On this year's fire, it hasn't been determined that the building gets damaged by more than 75% yet by the insurance company. So as with last year, it may draw out and see where it all goes. But keep on top of it, and I think it's a good ordinance to have. It keeps the city from being in trouble. Friday afternoon, there's going to be a press conference at the hospital, Children's Mercy announcement. I think that's big for our community, be good for our community. And later that night is boots, chaps, and cowboy hats at Smalls. So fundraiser for the Healthcare Foundation. And this year, all the Healthcare Foundation 3 fundraising events will go to the Children's Mercy Project. The budget, you got budget books tonight, and we also give out to the commission candidates who are here. One thing that has changed, and we don't have our final evaluation yet, we'll have it hopefully next week, but in talking to the county appraiser today, I'm expecting our evaluation to be down 2 to 3%. So if you take a $4 million valuation drop, which is a hair over 2%, you will mean that you have about 4 mils times about $160,000. You have to come down to keep the same mill levy. You'll have to bring your spending down about $160,000. We'll get into more of this, but we haven't got the final yet, but the initial is down a little bit, and a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into those because I'm not the appraiser. So agree or disagree, it is what it is, and so we'll work forward with that. State I don't know where the state of Kansas is going to go with budget. The budget that was approved yesterday has been vetoed by the governor, and at least initially, there was not enough votes to override a veto, unless they swing some across on both the House and Senate.
The Senate just voted to override it.
The Senate overrid.
Yes.
Good.
Oh,
Just saw it on Facebook.
okay, thank you. You went up on me.
They need one vote, the House needs 15 votes.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're supposed to go
Yeah.
tonight to the House.
yeah, the Senate needed, yeah, a whole lot less. Same with the school funding, so it's still out there. We'll get that done. So, other than that, and again, I enjoyed being with Commissioner Ryan and the group this morning. It was a super presentation. Commissioner Ryan and the committee did a super job, and then the rest of us filled in, which is as tag-alongs. Again, there's no guarantee, but like we both feel that they couldn't have done any better.
Mm.
That's all you can ask.
Yeah. Our team was pretty well prepared, but all of our partners that were there, they filled in all the niches in between, and it couldn't have been better scripted.
Good.
And I think some of the successes we've had in this community, and I'll use Delivering Change. When we can have a Delivering Change program that's been, 2-3 years now, that has delivered the success it has. And that with Jill and her whole staff they work with. That was important. It's been good for our community. I mean, forget about us trying to get money. It's been good for our community to lower the mortality rate and good things.
Mhm.
That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Logan?
I don't have anything.
Ms. Beatty? Ms. Settles? Nothing. Chief Breezy?
Nothing, Madam Mayor.
Chief Johnson?
Nothing, ma'am.
Mr. Ibarra? Mr. Gurman?
Nothing, Madam Mayor, except your slides posted.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Osborne?
Nothing this evening.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
You always have it.